We gotta take it to them.
I just wanted to make sure. That's why I was on that.
Okay. No, he's usually on top of that stuff. I'm surprised you're a little bit of a reluctant.
Well, not reluctant. I feel like they're dancing just on the edge.
The good news, we got 21 new federal judges and judges in the U.S. I assume this is going to be I assume it's in state court, but I don't know. It's not even, but it's, I mean, it used to be, when we were under the pre-clearance requirements, and you have to pre-clear something. So now you don't have to do that, you just have to assume that under the Voting Rights Act. That might be a federal question.
I want to thank everybody for gathering with us here today. I especially want to thank Senators Cornyn and Cruz for taking the time to join us today and being part of the aerial overview that we were able to take to get a better assessment of the entire region, as well as to work with us here on the ground. I also want to thank two local area congressmen. One for this district is Congressman Babin, for an adjacent district, Congressman Randy Weber, as well as Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and State Senator Nichols and local representatives Phelan and Deshotel. Thank all of them for being here. Particularly want to thank your county judge, and Mayor, who I think is here. There you go. Mayor, thank you for being here. And I want to express a special thank you to the Admiral for providing the Coast Guard that provided a very helpful tour of the entire region. As we flew around the region at about 1,000 feet, we could see the way that the storm impacted different areas differently. And I'll be candid with you, of all the areas that we saw, the worst that we saw was Orange. It seemed like the most significant damage I was able to observe, both from the sky as well as on the ground in this region, is in Orange. You saw more rooftops ripped off. You saw more shingles missing. You saw more trees down. You saw big pieces of steel framing wrapped around some trees. You saw some roads that were still inundated, underwater, impassable at this particular time. And that's just what I was able to see, either from the sky or from driving down a street. Obviously, as people get closer and look at buildings or homes, there will be additional damages that people have to deal with. That said, as I ask everybody how they feel about working their way through this hurricane, everyone pretty much had the same phrase, and that is, we dodged a bullet. It could have been far worse. We were anticipating, and it was prognosticated, that there would be a storm surge that could very easily exceed 10 feet. I was told earlier that the storm surge was about 3 feet, and that 7-foot differential means all the difference. We would not be gathering here right now had we seen a 10-foot or higher foot storm surge in this region like what was anticipated earlier. And so when you consider the magnitude of the damage that could have occurred here, we did dodge a bullet. Now, that, of course, doesn't help those whose homes have been hit, those whose businesses have been hit. And for those people, we want them to know that we are already working on the process of helping them rebuild. We have a very important person here, the man on the end, most important person in the room. His name is Tony Robinson. Tony Robinson is with FEMA, and he worked very collaboratively with me and my administration from the time of Hurricane Harvey all the way till today. And Tony, we thank you and your leadership. And I was telling both Pete Gaynor. Pete Gaynor is the head of or the administrator of FEMA, and I told the president, never before in my experience as governor have I ever seen an administration that responded as swiftly and as effectively as what President Trump and Administrator Gaynor have done this time, and we really appreciate their tremendous effort. Some details I want to get into. One is, as you may know, want to clarify, I have declared a disaster in 62 counties, and the president has similarly declared a disaster in each of those counties. Hurricane Laura made landfall near Cameron, Louisiana, about 30 miles east of the Texas-Louisiana border at 1 a.m. as a Category 4 storm hurricane. Winds exceeded 80 miles per hour, and the storm surge was an estimated 2.5 to 3.5 feet at the Sabine Pass area. Texas Point National Wildlife Refuge had about 74 mile per hour sustained winds with gusts up to almost 90 miles per hour. Port Arthur, you could see, was less. It was 38 miles per hour sustained winds with gusts up to 51 miles per hour. Orange County Airport, winds sustained at 29 miles per hour with gusts up to 54 miles. And Beaumont Regional Airport, 59 mile per hour sustained with gusts up to 66 miles per hour. Tree damage has been reported in Jefferson County, as well as the other surrounding counties around this region. I hear from some reports that we would expect to see even greater tree damage as you go further up north into East Texas. Other damage reports will be coming in during the course of the day. We do have teams in this region already, whether it be search and rescue teams, law enforcement teams, the National Guard, assessment teams that are covering every city, every county, every region to make damage assessments, but also to go about the process to determine the safety of everybody who lives in this area. And so I do want to get one confirmation, Chief Kidd. I have from you that Interstate 10 is currently closed at the Texas. That's not true.
Check with the Highway Patrol. It's open all the way to the border. On the Louisiana side of the border, they knew we had some damage, and we'll have to check the Louisiana side. We were open all the way through to the border.
I-10 is open all the way to the border. By the way, and I did have the opportunity to speak with Governor Edwards of Louisiana this morning, and he was his typical jovial self and was ready to be offering help to Texas. And so he's in good spirits, and I know the people of Louisiana are dealing with challenges themselves right now, and Texas and Texans stand ready to help our neighbors over in Louisiana. Several state agencies, including the Texas Department of Public Safety, Texas Task Force 1, the Texas Parks and Wildlife, as well as the Texas Military Division, are scouring every aspect, every zone of all of the affected areas to provide search and rescue capabilities as needed. We will continue that process until we know for a fact that there is no person who is unaccounted for. As of now, there remain more than 160,000 power outages throughout the entire Texas region affected by Hurricane Laura. We have almost 8,500 people who were provided shelter throughout the state, with more than 3,000 hotel rooms sheltering evacuees. Sheltering operations are occurring in Bexar County, Ellis County, Tarrant County, Travis County, and Harris County. And those efforts will continue as long as needed. One very important point here, and that is one thing that saved lives was evacuation orders that were made by local officials. And it was so important for local residents to heed those local warnings. And by people getting out of harm's way at an early time, that's one of the reasons why the loss of lives were minimized. I do want to emphasize, however, just as people listen to local officials in knowing when to evacuate, it's equally important to listen to local officials about when it is a good time to return. If you have no power, if there are other challenges on the ground, there will be different parts of a particular county that will have different levels of operability. And so it's very important to continue to listen to local officials about when is the best time to come back, as well as what other challenges may be existing in any particular county. One thing that we are continuing to look at is we stand ready to watch and respond to potential flash flooding as well as potential tornadoes as the storms continue to go through the exiting process of exiting the state of Texas. I have one report, unconfirmed, about a death in Sabine County. Know that is completely unconfirmed, but my point is this: that is the only report that I've received at all about any potential loss of life. If we make it through a Category 4 hurricane that ripped through the coastline all the way up to the Texarkana area, and we have been able to have minimal or perhaps no loss of life, that is a miracle. It shows that prayers were answered, that so many people cared so much about their neighbor, and that preparation paid off. And so I applaud the local officials for being so effective as they prepared their regions for the oncoming hurricane. I applaud what they were able to do to stabilize their communities in ways that led to saving lives and saving property and will lead to a very quick recovery. One of those local officials is your county judge, to whom I would like to turn the mic over to at this time.
Well, Governor, thank you. We, I think the dodge the bullet definitely fits what we feel here in Orange County as a whole. At about 2:30, 3 o'clock this morning, there was it probably felt across Texas a huge sigh of relief as that thing started going east. Now, with that sigh of relief was also some sadness that it was going to our neighbors. We hate to see it go there, and we're going to do all we can to help those folks, just as they came over and they helped us during Harvey and Imelda. Louisiana turned out in force to help us secure our folks over here and from the flooding. I'd like to thank you for your efforts and all the stuff that you've done. Whenever all the phone calls between us and talking about what we needed here, and you've responded extremely well. Thank you for that at the state level. It was that's so important that whenever we ask for those resources and you respond with those resources, Chief Kidd. As well, everybody. We've had a lot of benefit talking to all the ones that are standing behind us throughout this. That without that support, we can't support our citizens, which is our goal, is to make sure that we're giving them the support they need so that they can be safe. They did heed the warnings to evacuate, and I got to think a whole lot of that is due to the fact that our local city officials, as well as city mayors and managers, that we all work together. Our local counties, that we have a good 6-county region that we work all together in, and so when we put out evacuation orders and different orders, that we do it as a team, and that consistent message goes across our communities. And I think that's just a huge benefit, and I think that helps the citizens understand what we're trying to do, and they trust it when they hear it coming from everybody. So, that was our goal as we moved through the storm, and then once we knew that we weren't going to get the storm surge, well, then, of course, we started focusing on what the wind damage was going to do, and, we didn't get the 140-mile-an-hour winds, thank goodness, but we still got enough winds that we have some damage. So this morning, our assessment teams went out as soon as it got daylight to get out safely. They're out, and our first goal was to get them on the roadways to find out what clearance we need to get on roads, because we knew that people are going to want to get back into town, back to their homes and back to their businesses, and so they were doing that. We should have those reports soon so that we can assess what we need to move to the next day. And that has a twofold approach. Number one is it lets our citizens come back safely, because it's one thing to not get hurt in a hurricane, but we don't want you to get hurt coming back either, because even though there's trees and stuff, there's some of those that haven't completely fell yet, so you got to be cautious. We got to be careful moving around. But we also know that we have a lot of assets here that we may not need, but our neighbors will. Mm-hmm. And we want to be able to get them as soon as we know that we're clear here. We want to be able to have that ability for you to send those assets over there and help our neighbors, because, like I said, they've always helped us. Again, thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you to the city mayors and the managers throughout Orange County, because we work together, and without them, that we come up with good solutions as a team. And that's what we try to do. But thank you.
Of course. The mayor next. Come on up. Got you right here.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. This has been a tremendous show of support from all of the representatives, from all of the senators, and from all the different organizations here across the state of Texas. This is truly a remarkable situation, that there has been not one loss of life for the city of Orange and for surrounding counties. And so I want to thank my emergency management coordinator, Ms. Leanne Brown, my fire chief, our police chief, my city manager, Mike Kunst, all of city staff for working diligently to evacuate our citizens. It's not always about policies and procedures or ordinances. It's about loving people and loving them where they are for who they are. And that's what we stand for here in the city of Orange, Texas. So I want to thank you, Governor, for your support. It's definitely a pleasure to meet you, as well as all these other fine gentlemen up here. And I look forward to continuing to working with you in the near future. And God bless you all for your support.
Thank you, Mayor. Now I'd like to invite Senator Cornyn up.
Well, Judge, we celebrate with all of you this wonderful news that we've dodged a bullet, but we know this won't be the last one. And one of the things I like to think distinguishes Texas from some of the rest of the country when they experience natural disasters is the level of cooperation and coordination by different parts of the government. There's obviously a role for everybody to play, the local, the state, and then the federal level, where Texas congressional delegation is working. But one of the rules of thumb I go by is the 5 Ps. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. And I should add another P, Judge, practice, because you've had a lot of practice. And but I just want to congratulate you and Commissioners Court and stepping up on this project that Senator Cruz and the Texas delegation has worked on to enhance the levee system and storm surge system in this part of the state. There's a lot of attention given to the Ike Dike, which is very important, and that's certainly a priority, but we're one step closer as a result of your leadership and county commissioners stepping up to deal with that enhanced levee system that will cover 27 miles in Orange County, but also help some of the surrounding counties to deal with this in the future. So congratulations and thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Now Senator Ted Cruz.
Well, thank you, Governor, and I will say Texans all across the state, Texans here in Southeast Texas are breathing a giant sigh of relief right now. This hurricane could have been much, much worse. We just completed an aerial tour of the region, and the damage is much more contained than prior hurricanes have been. And obviously our hearts are heavy for our neighbors in Louisiana, and we toured some of that damage as well. The damage in Louisiana is significantly greater. But given the magnitude of this storm, it could have been so much worse. And there were a whole lot of prayers that were lifted up across Texas, a whole lot of prayers across the country, and we saw prayers being answered. But we also saw a testament to the leadership we have in the state, at the local level, at the federal level. One of the realities in Texas when it comes to hurricanes is this was not our first rodeo. We have experience with natural disaster, and at this point we have county judges and mayors and state officials and federal officials who have come together and dealt with tragedy from Hurricane Harvey to Imelda to Rita to Ike. We've seen the devastation that can come from natural disasters, and we're grateful that this one didn't bring that same level of magnitude. But one of the reasons that we limit some of that damage is because we have such terrific cooperation at the local level, the state level, the federal level. All of us have been talking to each other, talking to the governor repeatedly, talking to the White House. Yesterday I talked to the Secretary of Homeland Security. You've got the federal government, state and local, all working hand in hand. And for those who were impacted by this, there will be resources and support also from the community, from the churches, from charities. I've got to say at this point, every time we face a disaster or even a disaster somewhat averted, I'm inspired to see how Texans step up and help each other, how Texans help their neighbors, help them out of harm's way, help clean up the mess and help them get back on their feet. And Judge, it's powerful to hear, but it's exactly the Texas spirit that even though there are folks hurting here, that one of the first thoughts is we're going to help our neighbors in Louisiana, because I think that's who we are as a state, and that's who we are as a nation.
Thank you. Now we'll call up your local member from the United States Congress, and that is Brian Babbitt.
Thank you, Governor. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
When the chips are down, you bring your team. And like was just said, well, this is not our first rodeo. Orange County has borne the brunt of a lot of hurricanes. Our county judge and his
in this fight to respond. Mr. President, you acted quickly to authorize emergency disaster declarations for Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, which has allowed the federal government to prepare and